And then how did you get to the point where you started appreciating your own value? And this is the last question about, well, we're going to transition at right after this question. So do remind me, because I sometimes get really excited by some of your answers just lead me into another question.
Welcome to Shameless. Here we explore the transformative power of courage and action.
Thank you for joining us today. If you've enjoyed our conversations and you want to have more insightful discussions and hear from other incredible guests, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us to grow and continue bringing this amazing content. Thanks for joining in and enjoy today's episode of Shameless Podcast. So, first and foremost, for anybody of our viewers who haven't actually heard, or you don't know who I'm talking to, because I actually haven't really introduced them, Sherrika is the owner and founder of Transform the GAAP. She established Transform the GAAP, and by the way, GAAP is GAAP, and it stands for Goals Assigned Achieving Purpose. In order to leverage her 15 plus years of knowledge and experience as an accomplished corporate accountant to transition accounting teams and overlooked women within the accounting space from stagnation to strategic growth. She helped realign them with who they are, values, how they show up, beliefs, and how they thrive in any professional setting, promotion, as they advance in corporate America. Her passion lies in equipping accountants with essential skills required to advance in their careers, offering support and guidance to help them overcome obstacles and avoid pitfalls as they progress through significant organizational change.
And honestly, for anyone who is familiar in the accounting or finance space, my company name, Transform the GAAP, I wanted something that resonated with accountants. And so GAAP is actually a widely known accounting acronym, which means Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. And so that's why it's part of my name, to kind of speak to those within that industry, because they would see that and say, wait a minute, what is she?
It was a play on words. And so, though I appreciate GAAP can mean something else, for you, you've taken that acronym and you've created your own purpose within that. Could you maybe elaborate on what you mean by goals achieved, assigned, and purpose?
Yes, goals assigned, achieving purpose. Because we all have goals set. Accounting is a primarily male-dominated space. There are a lot of women, but as you tend to go up in the ranks, you see less women and you see more men, and you see even less minorities in any ethnicity. And so I like goals assigned, achieving purpose, because I wanted it to speak to saying, hey, I'm not just helping you with those technical accounting things like your balance sheet recs and various analysis, closing out the month, all of those things, but I'm also working with the person and helping them to meet whatever their goals are. When I was in corporate, I met with my team individually each person each quarter, to go over what their goals were, where we are as far as them being able to meet those goals, and then how can I help them in holding them accountable, or whatever assistance and guidance they needed. And so it really all stems from that.
And out of the 4, right, is that in an order that you should probably start with the goals, then assigned, achieving purpose? Like, is there an order to this, or is it just we're working on your goals assigned to achieving your purpose?
Yep. That's exactly
what it is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what I've typically found is that people struggle to at least maybe understand what their purpose is.
Yes.
And so then it becomes difficult to then put meaningful goals. So how do you break that down for yourself or for the people that you work with in order for you to be able to say, these are some very deliberate and easy ways of sort of getting to that space? And now, I don't want to take your trade secret, so don't give us everything. Just give us a little bit.
No, you know what? I love that question because you can look at purpose in two different ways. I think for the purpose of this answering this question, there's an overall what is my life's purpose type purpose, and then in this space, it's more of a smaller piece of that, meaning what is it that I'm trying to achieve in my career? What is it that what is my ultimate goal? What is my end result? Because I believe with everything you do, begin with the end in mind. So like whenever I would start, when I was in corporate, whenever I started a new company, I would always say, okay, I'm starting in this role. And by this time, by this date, I want to be in this position. And by this date in that position or moving to my next organization. Like I always started out the company with what my end date would be, based on the growth that I wanted for myself. And so it's that piece, that's basically what it means as far as purpose. Like, what is it that you want to come from all of this? You're in accounting, is this really where you want to be, or is this just where you happen to land? Or you're in a particular, let's say you're a staff accountant. Do you want to stay a staff accountant? Do you want to move to tax? Do you want to move to finance? Like ultimately, what is it that you want? And then from there, so it's working backwards really. What is it that you want? What's your end goal? What's your purpose? And then let's walk backwards from there and talk about the goals that need to be set in order to get you to that place.
I mean, that's fantastic because once you can establish that, you can then you're working backwards. So now it becomes very intentional and you can actually look to start achieving those things in a very meaningful way. Now, I read somewhere, or maybe somebody told me this about you, that at some point in your life, you spent several years feeling, and probably being overworked, under-resourced, and struggling to meet your deadlines. In fact, if anything, you ended up feeling exploited. To try to find your purpose from that point can become difficult or feel difficult or be heavy. How did you navigate to the point where you then said, you know what, I'm going to take this in my own hands and I'm going to be very deliberate about the steps that I take in order to change your situation? So how did you move from feeling overworked, under-resourced, struggling to meet deadlines, and feeling and being exploited to where you are now?
So, what's funny is, number one, when you're talking about setting your purpose and those goals, one of the things I always tell people is going into any type of setting it, whether it's work, professional, personal, whatever, know your boundaries and hold true to those boundaries. And the reason I say that is because I was overworked. I was honestly taken advantage of. And the reason I say that is because, number one, I didn't know my worth. I didn't understand the value that I was bringing to the company. And so I said, telling myself, just keep working hard because, that's why you're getting the promotions. That's why you're getting the recognition, because you're making sure you're always available for anything that they need. Well, that was not the case. So, I could have still been there and done my job without, being at their beck and call, but it was because I didn't have any boundaries in place. So I didn't say, you know what, after this time of night, I'm not online, or, you can't call me, or I'm not available this weekend, or, even when I took off, it was, hey, I'm going to be off, or, my family will go on vacation, but if you need me, call me. I'll have my laptop if you need me to hop online. So I didn't put those boundaries in place. And because of that, I felt like I was always trying to work to prove something. And what I learned later on is that it was already proven, and they saw it. They saw the people I worked with, the people I reported to, they saw my value. They saw the value that I provided to the organization, but they knew that I didn't see that within myself. And so they took advantage of it. So they would say things like, yep, you want to, these are, if you complete this project, that's just what you need to get the right recognition. If you, make this transition with the team, that's what you need to get, the right people to notice you. But it was the people who we're already noticing me that were saying this to me. I was already in the room, but they saw that I had that insecurity, and so they played to that. Um, and so that's why I feel like boundaries are so important, because if you set those going in and you hold true to those, my family is my priority, or my health, whatever your priorities are, holding true to those things, then that will take you so much further and further faster, because people will respect that, and they'll know going in, like, you know what, we can ask them to do this, but we need to make sure we give them time, because this is important weekend and I know they won't work, versus, oh, we'll ask them to do this and they'll just work on it through the weekend and it'll be fine.
And then how did you get to the point where you started appreciating your own value? And this is the last question about, well, we're going to transition at right after this question. So do remind me, because I sometimes get really excited by some of your answers just lead
Good
to
luck.
another question.
I'll try. But how I got out of that, it was COVID. COVID was a turning point for me. And the reason it was a turning point is because we had to work from home. And when I started working from home and started hearing, I have 3 children, and started hearing them say, oh, it's so good that you're here now. And specifically my daughter, I have 1 girl and 2 boys, and specifically my daughter saying, I'm just so glad to be able to see you, and knowing, even though you're working, just to know that you're home, and just hearing things like that, it was like, whoa. I thought I was showing up because I still made it to all the games. I would pick whoever I was assigned to pick up from practice or whatever. I was doing all of those things, but it was, okay, I'm going to go to the game, and then when we get home, I need to get back online. Yep, I'm going to pick you up, and then when we get home, I need to go log back in. So I would show up, and then I would immediately going back and making work a priority. And so hearing that from them, it was really like a slap in the face. Like, wait a minute, you're physically there, but you're not really showing up. And realizing that I was putting all of my energy and efforts, it really just started, I guess, open my eyes to the organization. Like, they're not valuing what you're doing for them. They're not, appreciating you. They're always making you feel like it's something else you need to do, another target you need to reach. And when I realized that and really opened my eyes to that, that's when I honestly started to shift. And it became, hey, Sherrika, can you get this done? Nope, not today, because it's time to go, but I can deal with it first thing for you in the morning. Or, hey, I'm going to be on vacation and I am not available while I'm on vacation. So that's when I started putting those boundaries in place. And it was a little bit of a shock, because they weren't used to that from me. You even have some people like, is everything okay? Are you
Are you? Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's and just being able to be comfortable with something like that is probably very important. That transition period, because yes, it's one thing to go on that journey, but then staying true to why you're doing it and understanding why it's important to be done. So I then have got I'm very curious, because now, as you work with different accountants and with females as well, there's the whole aspect of navigating workplace dynamics. Now, workplace dynamics can be a minefield. I mean, you're understanding hierarchies, roles, interpersonal relationships, communication, culture, political savviness, and change management, conflict resolution. All of these things sort of are the minefield of the space you're trying to work within. And at the same time, you're still trying to achieve your purpose and develop your career. Now, within the accounting world, which I'm sure a lot of people who aren't in it can extrapolate a little bit of stuff that they could learn. What do you always feel that people or teams tend to struggle with the most, and in terms of navigating through a workplace dynamic? What do you feel that really drives or holds people back from actually realizing their full potential?
We play a part in it as individuals, but I think a major part in it is actually your leadership, because the group tends to follow their leadership. And so if you have, and I say leadership, not even like your direct managers, but like the executive management, if you have, and coming from the accounting space, if you have a CFO, for example, who is one of those who you all need to get this done because, and I've had some like this, you all better get this work done because if not, I'll bring somebody else in to do it. And so now you have this whole environment that people are working scared, and and it decreases the morale. You have people, that's when you kind of start seeing some of those cutthroat tactics where it's, I want to show that what they did wrong, and I want to call out that I did this right, and it produces friction within team members because everybody is fighting to keep their place. But then on the flip side, you can have a manager who's all about the team and building the team and everybody working together. And so then you have your team who will follow that, and they're going to show up for each other. They're going to help each other out because, again, they're all seeking that approval from that upper management, and they want to make sure that what they're doing is aligned with those goals.
And so within a space where you might have leadership that might carry a very sort of cutthroat approach, right? And or the style of leadership is maybe a very challenging type. What tactics, advice, cheat sheets, would you provide in order for somebody who's in a space like that, right? And how do, let's say, for example, Transform the GAAP as a business, sort of, how would you guys be involved in a space similar to that?
Yes. So, for example, I've had a couple of those leaders who are like that. So I had a CFO once who, if someone made a mistake, and he's CFO and I'm in a different management role, but lower than his role, and someone on my team made a mistake, and he says, "Who did it? Tell me their name. I need to see them right now." And it can all seem really scary. And, oh my gosh, she's upset and I don't want to lose my job. But that's when I had to hold true to my personal beliefs and my values. And I always felt like I was there to protect my team. And so he would say, "Well, who did it? Who made the mistake?" That's not important. It doesn't matter who did it. It's my team. I did it because it was my team. So now let's fix it. And, even though he didn't like that answer because I didn't give him the name, from working with me and just knowing who I was, he respected that and knew that, all right, let's just move on. Let's get to the resolution and move on from here. Or we've already figured it out and we're already on the path to recovery, so to speak. So I think this is in a dynamic like this, in an environment like this is where the middle management can really make a big difference, because they're the ones who are engaging more with the employees on a one-to-one, on a closer level, and where the employees can feel supported, where the employees can feel like they're being heard, and where it really gives the employees the confidence to speak up for themselves if needed. And now if you're not in management and you are the staff and you're working directly with this person, again, it can be scary. I always tell people, legs shaking, voice shaking, all the things, but I still knew that I had to hold true to who I was. I had to know that when I walked away from that conversation, I still felt good about me. And I still was, felt like I left with my dignity, with my respect. And it's not about about yelling. It's not about creating an argument. One of the things I love to teach on is professionally advocating for yourself, because you can have a calm conversation and still say exactly what it is you need, and still say, you know what, these are my boundaries, and have that respect without all of the
yelling and profanities and everything in between.
Exactly. Yes.
And so at this point in time, I actually feel that I have a quote that, ironically enough, is something that I actually ran across earlier today. And the quote goes, as a leader, and that could be senior executive or even middle management, as a leader, you have an incredible opportunity to change someone's life every single day. Leadership is never about tearing people down. It's about helping people become the best version of themselves. And when you highlighted that you stand up as middle management and you're like, I did it, we're looking to move forward. You're trying to create an environment which gives people the opportunity to be the best version of themselves. And when you say people follow the leader and you're able to create an environment, people feel free to give opinions, voice their displeasures and give feedback, then at the end of the day, that becomes something very significant. And when I look at that, it means so much to an individual, both for their career development, but also, and that's professionally, but also within the workspace mentally. You don't want to be sitting in a space where you just hate being at work. And so that's why I picked that quote.
Yeah. So I do a monthly article on LinkedIn. It's called Transform Tuesdays. It comes out Tuesday of each month. And this week, the one for this Tuesday, this is the first Tuesday in May, was about leaders and saying that, it's not about you. And basically what that article was saying was, the article that I wrote was basically saying that when you focus on the team, when you focus on the people, when you're a true servant leader, being there for your people, helping them to grow, helping them in the things that they need, you will move a lot further and a lot faster in your own career when you take the focus off of yourself and really focus on being there for your team, being there for your people. When your team knows that you care for them and that you're truly there for them, they will go to the ends of the world for you. They will do whatever they can to make you happy because they know that when it's all said and done, that you have their back. And so I truly agree with that statement because some people get caught up in the title. It's not about a title. You can be a leader without the title. It's about the person and helping and helping other people your goal, your primary purpose, honestly.
And I love that anybody can be a leader, and that is even more so why the reason centered around transformational leader or within this podcast, because in this space we look to have meaningful conversations and we look to be the catalyst of transformative leadership, sustainable change, and a testament for the Ubuntu principle, I am because we are. And the thing is, we sometimes carry our title and we think we're limited by that. And that point that you raised is amazing. And so even as I read through your latest article and the point around you cannot see the forest for your trees, do you maybe want to elaborate on that point? I'll do a horrible job trying to summarize or trying to be that guy. So I'm going to let you run with that but this point to me resonated so well. So maybe if you don't mind, just shedding some light on that.
No problem. So yes, you can't see the forest for your trees. That means, number one, get out of your way and get out of your own mess, because you're so focused on you and all the things that you have going on. You're not paying attention to your team. You're not there for your team. You're trying to figure out, how can I, get my next promotion? How can I get my next raise or increase? But if you just move all of that noise out of the way, move all of your noise, all of your baggage, all of yourself out of the way as a leader, and really start focusing on those people around you. And and again, when I say leader, it doesn't mean title. It doesn't mean manager. It's as a person, because you can have the same title as the other people within your team and still be the leader of the team just because of how you carry yourself. And people tend to naturally gravitate towards the leaders. You don't have to say, hey, I'm the leader. People normally gravitate naturally to that person. But that's really all it's about. Just making it not about you. And when you make it about everyone else and how can I best support everyone else, you will find that you automatically are supported. You have the help that you need. I remember having people to say, hey, Sherrika, didn't you say you had to leave early? Is there anything that you need me to help you with to make sure that, you can get whatever you need done? Like, they were coming to ask me to help with my job. And it was because they knew that if they needed my help, I was there for them. So that's what the gist of it is, yes.
And we're coming close to the end, and I just want to really tie in a couple of things here. Now, you've talked about GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, but this is not what we're talking about. Right now, it's about goals assigned achieving purpose. And at the end of the day, when we start thinking about some of these things, it's very important to start at your purpose. Now, the purpose might be a life purpose, or it might be a very small purpose. It might be a goal in achieving your career development, your path towards what you envision, and that can be with your family, the work-life balance, or how am I going to get to that next phase, the experiences that you're trying to get. And at the end of the day, once you can appreciate those things, that purpose, it's the first step towards being able to build those goals in order to be achieving your purpose. And so you talked about how you then build backwards in order for you to be able to get a very intentional direction to which you're trying to go achieve what you're looking to get. And the thing about Transform the GAAP, which resonates with Transformational Leader or Shameless, is that it's not actually purely about the technical skills. I mean, technical skills are important, but some of the things that we a lot of the time lack are the softer aspects about leadership, servant leadership, if not as important as anything. And being able to structure your plan in a deliberate way in order to be able to get your goals. And so I can resonate with your experience where you felt overworked and not recognized, and at the end of the day you ended up feeling exploited. And that journey for you across the years that you served then was the base from which you started and you worked from. And it was actually the function of COVID that then brought you forward to say, you know what, I am missing something in this whole trick. I'm not valuing myself. I need to set boundaries, and it is the worth that I carry, and being comfortable to be able to have that confidence and to see that within yourself in order to put the steps forward. Because as long as you don't make that first step, nobody's actually going to be doing it for you. And so we follow leaders, and leaders are not made by titles. And so even as you talk about the forest for your trees, for me, that ability to not be in your own head and rather to look at the environment, the community that you're working within, in order to be able to stand up for your teammates, in order for you to be able to work through as a collective and not just focus on yourself, builds a community that then strives to make you and the people around you realize their full potential. And so when I hear your story, I hear the work that you're doing, not only am I impressed, but I'm also inspired. And though we didn't really talk about the other potential meaning of gap, which is, I'm guessing, the gap between male and female within the workspace, I actually feel that there are so many learnings that can be taken for a lot of people. And I do want to make or give you this opportunity right now to maybe touch on, you mentioned accounting, female, male. The dynamics within a workspace for male and female are always different. How do you then, from your perspective, work and deal with that as a unique selling point? Like, how does that then stand out of everything?
Honestly, it's there's definitely a a misconception. When men are upset, they're passionate. They just want this to work, so to speak. With women, oh, they're being emotional. They need a minute. We need to speak with them softer. Or as a Black woman, there's this angry Black woman stigma. And so I honestly had to learn how to play the game. It's just simple as that. When I was upset, I couldn't be upset like the white male next to me, because then I was the angry person while he was just passionate. So I had to find a way to make sure that I was still able to say what needed to be said, but I had to make sure it was calm. I had to make sure that I was, politically correct in how I said things, because I wanted to make sure that they heard me and not my emotion, not my skin color, not my gender, but the words that came out of my mouth. And so while that seems really hard to do, knowing that I wanted to make sure I was heard, that came because I set that as a priority. It made it easier to kind of pull back on the anger and on other things. And that doesn't mean letting people run all over you. You still, hold your boundaries. You still are able to say, you know what, I didn't like when you did X or when you said X. You could still say those things, but just being able to make sure you can say them with a level head, and so that they are hearing your words and not your emotion.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that, because, and a lot of people definitely resonate with that, for the simple fact that a lot of the time you can easily feel a certain way about something, and the emotions of the situation start to take over. And as long as you can understand what you're trying to achieve through that discussion, you can then find the way to actually navigate through that space. And so that's the beautiful message. Now, for anybody looking to book a discovery call with Transform the GAAP,
thank you. I have thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and thank you for the opportunity.
Details are down in the bio, so please click away. And if you just happen to say, hey, I heard you on Shameless podcast, I mean, I'm sure you're going to be able to do something for the viewers and the listeners, right?
Absolutely.
I would love to just thank you so much for taking the time today. I've really enjoyed our call, and generally accepted accounting principles. Now I know. But more so than anything, the shared experiences that we have are wonderful, and not only for myself, but I hope some of the listeners too. Sherrika, it's been a pleasure, and we'll be watching that space.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share as we embark on our mission to impact 1 million African lives by 2026.
This podcast is brought to you by Transformation Leader. You can follow us at www.t4leader.com.